Many years ago, when I first started playing Minecraft, I asked myself, which of the blocks is my favourite? Pretty quickly I came to the conclusion that I didn't like any of them and all the textures sucked. Now that it's been many years later and the textures have all been changed, I recently asked myself the same question again, and I came to the same conclusion. All the textures suck, none of them are my favourite. However, when it comes to items, I do have a favourite. The debug stick. Now, the debug stick is a command-only accessible item, which was introduced in 1.13. Now, it has many uses, but its main purpose is basically to change the properties of different blocks and items. Now, most blocks don't have any properties. For example, stone, planks, and bedrock, gold as well, have no properties, and when you try and hit them, it comes up saying they have no properties. However, other blocks, for example logs, stripped logs, and wood, do have properties. In these three cases, it decides what direction they're facing, and by pressing it you can change its axis. Other blocks have more than one property, and by using the left click button you can change which property you're changing. For example, slabs, they have the type property and the waterlogged property. Now when you change the type property, it changes the position that the slab is in, from the top half of the block to the bottom half of the block to both parts of the block. When you use the waterlogged property, you can change whether it's waterlogged or not, obviously. Stairs also similarly have multiple properties. For example, it has the shape, whether it's waterlogged, which directions it's facing, and whether it's upside down or right way up. Using these properties, you can manipulate the blocks to look however you want them to, facing in whichever direction and however you want, which could be quite useful when using it in a build and you want to put a certain type of stair in a very peculiar position. Carved pumpkins have only one property, and that's the direction that they're facing, which is kind of useless, but I'm not going to judge it. Now, I find that with mycelium and grass blocks, they also have only one property, but it's not what you would think it is. For some reason, their only property is whether it's snowy or false, which by clicking on them changes it to this weird texture, which honestly, I don't think I've seen before. Now, this could be quite useful when building, because it allows you to have another option for how the ground looks like. Out of torches and end rods, only one of them has properties that can be changed. In this case, it's the end rod. For some reason, torches don't have any properties, which is kind of a shame because it would have been cool to be able to extinguish it or take away the particles or whatever, but maybe in the future. Now, end rods, you can change the direction they're facing in, and that's pretty much it. Now, when it comes to blocks such as chests, crafting tables, and furnaces, you're only able to access the changing properties of the debug stick by shifting, or else it interacts with the object and you can't do anything. Now, with chests, they have three properties that can be changed. They have the direction they're facing, whether they're waterlogged or not, and then it has the type. Now, the type one is the one that I find most useful, and you can use it to change whether it's a half of a chest, the other half of the chest, or a single chest. Now, I think in some builds that could be quite useful, and you could make some interesting ideas with it. The crafting table, on the other hand, has no properties. I would have thought that you would at least be able to change the direction it is in, but for some reason it seems you can't. Whereas with a furnace, you can change the direction it's facing in. However, more usefully, you can change its lit status to being lit or unlit. Now, this means that you can have a blazing furnace without having to be cooking anything or have any coal, which I think would be quite cool and useful in some builds. Ladders have only one property, well, two properties actually. They have the the standard facing one and the waterlogged one, both of which you have seen, nothing special. Snow layers, on the other hand, have only one property, and that is changing how many layers they have. Now, I'm not sure how useful this could be, because you can already do that just by using snow layers. So it's a kind of a useless property to be able to change, but I'm sure you'd be able to find some use for it somehow. Now, I found that fences, walls, and glass panes all have pretty much the same properties to it, and I think all of them are quite useful. For them, you can change whether you have the thing sticking out in whatever direction you want. This could be quite useful if you want to make some sort of thing using them. It could be used to make different objects and structures in a unique way, and it's not something you can do in normal survival or creative. Walls, on the other hand, are kind of glitched in one of their properties. You have the standard ones where you can do the walls to the different sides, and you've also got the waterlogged one, but the up property is kind of glitched because when you do it, the whole thing just disappears. Now, if you get any block or whatever and place it beside it, it will reappear even after you've broken it. So it seems to be glitched in some way. However, glass panes work in the same way as the other two with no glitches, with the waterlogged and the directions. Scaffolding has two properties, I'm pretty sure. 3 properties. The distance one, which I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what it does. It has the waterlogged one, which does waterlogging as usual, and then it has the bottom one. Now, the bottom one doesn't really work. What it does is it's meant to add the bottom thing, but it doesn't do anything. Now, if you do put another scaffolding here, you can use it to try and put a bottom one on it as well. Nothing happens. It's just completely useless, I suppose. When it comes to coral, whether it's dead or alive, they only have one property, and that is whether it's waterlogged or not. So pretty boring, just like in the regular game. Completely useless. Tall flowers, however, are an interesting case because they have 2 hitboxes. They have the top one and the bottom one. Again, they only have one property, and that is whether it displays as the top flower or the lower one. For example, by doing it like this, you can have both as the lower, and by doing it like this, you can have both as the higher one. Which, again, could be useful, but I don't see how useful it could be. Especially, yeah. Now, when it comes to shulker boxes, again, you have to be crouching to do it, but you can change the direction just as you would presume. Signs, banners, and dragon heads, as well as other heads, all only have one property. Well, 2 when it comes to signs, but waterlogged, that's like a standard property. And all of them are basically, it can rotate. For some reason the sign isn't working, but it does have the rotation property. So you can rotate banners, you can rotate dragon heads, and nope, nothing. Well, maybe that's a bug that needs to be fixed. Talking about bugs that need to be fixed, I found that with these 3 items, item frames, paintings, and armor stands, it doesn't matter if you're crouching or not, whenever you try and change their property, you can't, it doesn't come up whether it has no properties or not, and it just breaks. So that could be a bug. Mojang, get onto it. What's with all the bugs? Now, beds are also pretty, kind of like the tall flowers. It has 2 different hitboxes, and it has a couple of different ones. It has the facing one, which again you have to be crouching to use, and it can change which direction the parts are facing. It has the parts, which you can choose whether it's the top part or the bottom part, and then it has whether it's occupied or not. Now I can only presume if it is occupied it means that you can't use the bed, but I haven't actually tested it out myself. Bells also have several different items. It has the powered, attachment, and the facing. Now you have to crouch for this again, and it just changes which direction it's facing for the facing one. The attachment changes what type of bell it is, and that could be useful for a build, I'm not sure. And powered, I'm not sure what it does. Now we're getting on to my absolute favourite use for the debug stick, with lamps. Now, if you get a lamp and a block, build up like this, and go like this, you put the lantern here, it's hanging from the ceilings. Now they only have one property, and that is whether it's hanging or not. So you can change it to not hanging, break the blocks, and voila, hanging lamps in the air. This is really cool, and I've used it in a few builds. Most recently I used it in a wizard tower I built a month or so ago, where I used it to make floating lamps as the light source, which I found was quite cool and very magical. Now when it comes to fireplaces, or whatever it's called, please excuse me for not knowing what it's called. It has several different properties. It has the facing one, it has the lit one like the furnace where you can choose whether it's lit or not, and it has the signal fire. Now the signal fire changes how high the smoke goes. So by having it to true, the smoke goes not very high, and by having it false, the smoke goes a lot higher. Or the other way around, actually. Well, you get it. You understand what I'm talking about. Beehives, you can choose the level of honey they have. Making it to level 5 makes it have the full honey things. You can use full honey flocks without having to have the hassle of actually doing it how you would in survival. You can also change the direction it's facing in, but that's about it. Now note blocks have a rather cool, because by doing it like this you can change what instrument it's being used without having to worry about the block underneath. And you can also change the powered, whether it's powered or not, whether it's what note it is at. Of course you can do that just with normal, but hey. And all in all, it makes it quite a useful thing to do if you don't want to have to mess with all different blocks types and stuff. Pistons have several different properties. It has the extended property. When it's extended, the thing disappears. Again, this could be used in some builds. I don't know how, but it could be useful. And you can have the direction it's facing. Now, when the piston, if you change it from extended, and then you do the property, you can have, again, I don't know how useful it could be, but it's quite an interesting concept and might be useful in a build. When it comes to these, the levers, you can change the direction it's facing in, you can change what side it's on, and whether it's powered or not. Of course the powered one, again, useless, pretty easy to do a normal. So nothing that useful there. Now when it comes to TNT, I'm going to be honest, I'm a little bit nervous about this because it has only one property. I have no idea what it actually does, and it sounds kind of scary. Now its only property is whether it's stable or unstable. For example, in its natural state it is stable, but if you change it to unstable to true, well, I have no idea what it does, but I do not want to be here when it happens. So let's just move on. Redstone torches only have one property, the lit property, and again it's kind of bugged because as soon as you unlight it, it relights by itself. Fences have powered, the direction they're facing, whether they're in a wall or not, which just moves it up and down slightly, and that's about it. But you do have to be crouched to use it. Same with trapdoors. You have the half, which you can change which half of the block it's in. It has the facing, which changes which direction it's facing in, the waterlogged, the powered, and whether it's open or not. Pressure plates have only powered properties, and the solar panel thingies, which I completely forget what they're called, light sensors or something? I don't know, it's a stupid name. They have the power property and the inverted property, both of which seem to do pretty... I don't know what they do. The power one, it probably just changes the strength of the redstone signal it gets, and the inverted one just seems to change the color. But I don't know. Maybe useful, maybe not. Hoppers, I think, are very useful. They have the enabled property, which I guess means whether they're working or not, and it has the facing property, which is a easy way that you can fix the direction that droppers are using if you want to use them in redstone and that, making it quite a useful tool so you don't have to keep on breaking and replacing droppers. Wherever you, not droppers, they're whatever they're called, wherever you want. Now observers, they have two properties that are facing one and powered one. The powered one just changes whether it's powered appearance or not, and the facing one changes the direction it's facing in. Like these ones, it could be quite useful if in redstone and stuff. Rails have one property, and that is the shape they're in. Now if you have it, now the reason it popped off is I presume because it was trying to get on the top part of the block or something, and it couldn't handle it, so it just broke. Composters, one property, the level that they're full. Again, pretty useless because you could just do it normally, but whatever. Now, when it came to anvils, I thought they would have more than one property, but they only have the facing property, which you have to be shift to use. But again, it could be useful, I don't know. Now, I thought that lava and water might have properties, but it seems that they don't, and it just goes right through it. On the other hand, I found that kelp, or whatever it's called, seaweed, has a property called aged, which I don't really know what it does, but it seems to go up to 25 and then resets. And the sugarcane has the exact same property, which does the exact same, I don't know, it thingy. Bamboo has is a unusual case. When you put bamboo down, it's as a shoot, and the shoot has no properties actually. But once it starts growing, it has several. It has the leaves property, and it has the stage property. Now, if I break it down to here, I can change this age of it to make it get thicker or smaller. But that's about it. Now, when it comes to crops, they have only one property, and that is its age. So by using the stick, you can instantly grow them up. Now, when it comes to farmland and tilled ground, it also has one property, the moisture level. Now, you can put the moisture level up to 7, and when it gets to 7, it becomes wet dirt, which is could be useful, but I don't know whether it will dry out eventually or whatever. Now the last 3 things I wanted to try out was with mobs. However, yeah, it doesn't matter if you ship or not. Whatever you do, you can't really interact with them. You just end up killing them. So I guess mobs have no properties which you can debug with my stick. So hopefully by watching this video you've seen that the debug stick has actually quite a few uses, especially I think when it comes to building. It could, whether it comes from the fences and the walls and the glass panes to the lanterns to even the furnaces being lit or not, the stairs, the slabs and all that. It can be quite useful in your creative builds, and you could even use it in your survival builds by cheating it in if you wanted to. But yeah, thank you for watching the video. Hopefully you learnt a bit of useful stuff from this, and if you liked the video, give me a like. If you hated the video, tell me how much you hated it. I don't mind, I can take the criticism, but anyway, thank you for watching, and see you next time.